welcome to The Perspective with Mike Sherbino and Julie Stautland and a whole host of awesome guests. Today, the mighty voice of the Toronto Raptors, Herbie Kuhn. Now, one may think the chaplain to players in the NBA and CFL would be praying for wins for the teams, right? Especially the Raptors. Nope, not Herbie. In the fiercely competitive dog-eat-dog world of sports, he's as diplomatic and peace-giving as Jesus. In a recent CBC interview, Herbie says he prays for God to give people on both teams everything they need to succeed. Well, heads up, Herbie, here's Mike and Julie, a hockey player and a champion fencer.
Well, welcome to The Perspective today. I'm Mike Sherbino, and you would be?
Julie Stautland.
Okay, Julie, here's the question for the day.
All right, I'm ready.
What's your favorite city? I know you have many cities,
I have many.
One that just kind of strikes a chord.
Venice. I love Venice.
Did your husband tour? Did he paddle the boat down the...
No, but we went in one together. It was very romantic. It was lovely. So how about you? You have a favorite city?
I've been to Venice once. My wife didn't like it that much. But anyways, that's a whole other... You know what city I like? I like Boston.
Boston.
I don't know why. I did some studies there, and
That's a nice city.
I like the downtown, the Commons.
Yes.
Took my kids there. They found a shopping area when they were younger, and that just about cleaned me out financially. But I'm going to talk a little bit about Boston at the end when I do my Bible teaching. I want to talk about Cheers. Remember the old sitcom Cheers?
I do.
It's all going to be good. But right now, we have an interview that I did with Herbie Kuhn, the voice of the Raptors and chaplain to the Toronto Argonauts. Stay with us. I'm going to be right back.
And it is so important, vitally important, for young black individuals today to not think that they've got it good because that's just the way it is. They need to know that they have it the way they have it today because other people have made sacrifices, sometimes, in some cases, their lives, their way of life, their dreams, their homes, for goodness sakes. I have a black son who was born in South Africa, and he needs to know about the history of Nelson Mandela. He needs to know about the history of the Martin Luther Kings. He needs to know about the history of people from within my own family, from Guyana, who are descendants of slaves, who were shipped over here across the Atlantic from West Africa. He needs to know about that.
Well, Herbie speaks with such passion. There are issues that grip his heart, as we saw in that bumper. And I want you to join with me right now as I do an interview with Herbie Kuhn to find out what makes him tick, where his passion lies, and the people that he cares so deeply about. Well, today I'm excited to have back again a good friend to our program, Herbie Kuhn. And Herbie, as you know, is the voice of the Toronto Raptors. He's also been and continues to be the chaplain for the Toronto Argonauts for, I think this is his 13th season. Welcome, Herbie. Thank you for coming back.
Mike, greetings and salutations. Great to see you, and thanks for having me back. It's a real honor.
Well, you know what? I'm glad you're honored because we're honored, so everybody's honored. So that's pretty cool. If you come back the second time, that's just pretty sweet. So we're already talking the third time with you and Mark Washington, and that would be fun. But you know what?
That'll be amazing. Mark and I here on the same program. Might have to do a new weather forecast for that day. It's going to be awesome.
How long have you been the voice of the Raptors? How many years is it now?
You know what? The Raptors have been in existence for 27 years, Mike, and I've been with the team since the very beginning in 1995. So 27 years with the team, 26 years of announcing because of the year 2 seasons ago now where the team spent its home in Tampa. So I wasn't there for that. So 26 seasons of announcing, but 27 altogether. Amazing.
It is amazing. You know, just a bit of humor and trivia. So when you're announcing like that and you've been so long with the team, is there a few just natural flashback phrases and words that you use if you're stumbling? I know as preachers we have things that we do when you're always communicating. What do you do?
Well, it's interesting because what I do isn't really play-by-play per se. If you're listening to Paul Jones and Eric Smith do the radio broadcasts, or if you're listening to Matt Devlin do the play-by-play on TV, I'm not giving nonstop commentary on the game. I'm more interjecting in different plays for what happens in the arena for the folks in the stands. So it's not too often, by God's grace, that I stumble on my words. They're mostly set phrases. Obviously, there are certain signature announcements that I have for a slam dunk for a Raptors player, the jam or something like that, or one of our players heading to the free throw line to make a shot in crunch time, shooting two, some things like that. The fans have become very familiar with. Those are more of my signature phrases rather than go-to phrases when I'm stumbling.
Well, that's a little bit of interesting trivia, at least for me as a communicator. But I have to admit, when the Raptors didn't quite make it, I was thinking about you and I was actually wondering, what were you going to say to the players? Because I know you're such an encouragement to them. Can you take us back to that moment and just share what actually happened over the next few days?
You know what? It's very interesting, Mike, because obviously we were all disappointed. Everybody wants to win a championship, right? Everybody wants to win a series and move on to the next series. And the fact that most of the experts didn't expect us to even, lock up a playoff seed, much less take Philadelphia to 6 games. So sure, there was disappointment. And for me, from a chaplaincy perspective, from a friendship perspective, mostly communication, text messages. We've got this. Great year. Thanks for your effort. Looking forward to next year. Already a sense of anticipation building on what we've built so far, moving towards the future. So I personally, even though it's only June right now, I can't wait till October to get things started again for another Raptors season. So it's going to be a great year.
Are you staying in touch with the players just on your own? Do you just keep texting them, calling them the odd time? How does that work?
A couple of guys. There are a couple guys who I'm more in touch with. Obviously, the ones who avail themselves of our pregame chapels and Bible studies, I'd be closer to them. Later today, after this interview, actually, I have to head down to our practice facility because some of the players are coming in for off-season workouts. So I'll have an opportunity to touch base with a few of our players today and further solidify some of those relationships. And you and I both know, in life and in ministry, relationships are the essence of our effectiveness. You have to build the relationships and the trust. So that's what I'm aiming for later today. And hopefully that'll help continue through the off season. And then when we get to things in October, there's already a sense of familiarity there built on those communications.
Well, you talk about the off season for the Raptors, but it's the on season now for the Argonauts. So how does do you just shift and put on a different hat? What does that look like?
Yes, it absolutely does. I put on a different hat, put on a different color polo shirt or golf shirt or t-shirt or what have you. I switch from the Raptors red or black and I switch to Argos double blue. So yeah, it's, right now we're getting ready for the regular season starting next week. I'm so excited for this Argonaut season. We have a great combination of veteran players and some newcomers, some great new draft picks, a couple of local Toronto boys on the team. And I'm fired up. I'm excited. We've got our first pregame chapel coming up on Friday before we play against the Hamilton Tiger Cats at the University of Guelph. And I couldn't be more excited about the Argos coming up this season coming up for 2022.
So what does that look like? Do all the players show up for a chapel or is there a pressure, a camaraderie?
Wouldn't that be something if everybody showed up for chapel? That would be like everybody on your street showing up for church. You know what?
You didn't have to say it that way, okay? You didn't have to say it that way.
You know what? Everybody knows it's available. I have an opportunity over the course of training camp to introduce myself and meet all the players, the coaches, any new staff. I'll have an opportunity this coming weekend to do a presentation in front of everybody once the final roster has been set and let them know what chaplaincy service consists of. Emotional support, spiritual support, psychological support, and weekly Bible studies, as well as pregame chapels. And, pastoral support. That's the essence of our chaplaincy. So I'll have an opportunity to present that. So nobody will be without excuse. They'll all know that it's available. And then those that choose to attend, they attend. And those that don't, you do your best to build relationships with them on a day-to-day basis. And that's why you'll see me at practices. I put the gloves on. I'm out there catching balls sometimes for the kickers or when the quarterbacks are warming up. Sometimes I help out with the running backs drills. I get the pads and hit the guys. I'm a chaplain. I'm an athlete in action. I work for Athletes in Action, and I'm an athlete in action. I'd like to get involved. I don't like just standing on the sideline. So as much as I'm able to get involved, I do. And that really endears you to the guys when they know, man, this guy's not just standing around. He's not just preaching at us. He's getting involved. He's getting the gloves on too. He's risking his
right
personal safety. Yeah.
That's exciting. You know, the Leafs didn't call me up, and I've been struggling over that. Maybe there's a place where I can come back and get my throwing arm in place. You know, from those high school football days. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So much fun. You know, Herbie, we're going to be right back after the break, and we're going to talk about prayer. I'm going to tell you an interesting story. I'm going to set you up with a funny story about the Blue Jays and the Twins when they were playing. And but we want to talk about prayer and how is it that these professional athletes navigate in the whole spiritual realm, because they're supposed to have the persona that they got it all together, and you know, you don't want to let the guard down. And we're going to be right back with Herbie Kuhn to talk more about sports. Well, we're here with Herbie Kuhn, who is the voice of the Raptors. He's also the chaplain to the Toronto Argonauts. And Herbie, a number of years ago, the Blue Jays were playing the Minnesota Twins, and I was asked to come and speak at chapel. And it was way back in the day. Those are the glory days, the year before they won the World Series. And I remember being in the dressing room with all these guys that, you know, basically they just signed my autograph. You know, I wanted them to sign my some piece of paper, anything. And but as I shared with them, I then had to go to the Minnesota Twins, and I had chapel with them and pray for them. And it was kind of a challenge because I wanted the Jays to win. That was just the human nature. But you know what? When we talk about prayer, let's hear from you how you guide these guys, because the easiest thing to say is, oh, Lord, help me to win. But that's not really what it's all about, is it?
No, that's not what it's really all about, because we know that both in sport and in life, Mike, that we don't win all the time. However, despite the circumstances, regardless of the circumstances, rather, we can be victorious. So for me, it is not about praying for wins. And just like you in that circumstance with the Minnesota Twins, yes, my flesh wants to pray for the Argonauts or for the Raptors to win, but my spirit says, you know what? God's got children on both teams. And if I were a dad with two children playing on opposing teams against one another, it would not be right for me to vote for one team or cheer for one team above the other. I would simply say, kids, I've given you everything you need to succeed. Now go out there and do your best. Be a sportsman-like, represent your Lord, represent your family, go out there and have fun. And may the best team win. Simple as that.
So when you take that to a different level, I mean, these players, they do life just like the rest of us. They got to put their pants on one leg at a time. What do you talk to them about? What are the issues that professional athletes in Canada are dealing with? Is it different from anyone else?
It is. The biggest issue that I speak to athletes about, by and large, is about identity, is about who they perceive themselves to be. Because so many professional athletes have grown up accustomed to adoration, adulation. They have been the creme de la creme. They've been the best on their teams. They've been the MVPs at their club teams and their high schools and their colleges. And then they get to the pros, and for most of them, for the vast majority, they are one fish in a really big sea. And all of a sudden, to not get the notoriety and the attention that they thought they were going to get can be a real wake-up call, to say the least.
It's devastating.
Yeah, devastating to some. To some, it's simply, wow, I didn't realize it was going to be like this. So for me, an ongoing theme, day to day, week to week, is remember who you are in God's eyes. Remember you're a child of God. Remember that you are deeply loved, and you don't have to go out there and have a triple-double on a basketball court or carry the ball for 140 yards as a running back for God to love you anymore. He loves you regardless of whether you've got a triple double or whether you sat on the bench. It's how you handled your circumstances, how you honor him in the process. Those are the most important things.
Let's talk about Herbie for a moment. What do you do to keep your life on track?
Oh my goodness. I am blessed to be surrounded by some really, really great friends and great confidants, brothers and sisters in the Lord who have permission to ask me tough questions at any time. And for me personally, getting into my Bible daily, talking about biblical things with my wife, Stephanie, regularly, watching the YouVersion daily verse of the day video with her, most days, at least 5 or 6 days out of 7.
Yeah.
And spending the time. And for me, most of my chapel material that I use for chapels and Bible studies with my players comes from my own personal devotional time, whether that's something on YouVersion, whether it's Our Daily Bread, whether it's something completely different. It's my devotional time that helps plant the seeds for the messages that I share at chapels and sermons and Bible studies and the like.
So like as you feed yourself, then you're able to give to other people. Is that not true?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And if you starve yourself, guess what? There's not much to share with others then. You can only go on that same message to 2 or 3 or 4 times. You can't go back to it over and over. It has to be fresh, it has to be something new, and it has to be something relevant. And that's why I love digging into the Word and digging into different devotionals and hearing other people's perspectives and then taking that and incorporating it into my own experiences. And so far, so good.
Well, as you're talking about perspective, we were talking just before we came on air today about your perspective on gratitude in your own journey. Just unpack that for us.
Mike, we're living in a world, and you alluded at the beginning of the program to the fact this is my second time here on your show, for which I'm very grateful. Since the last time we spoke on Perspective TV, a lot has changed in our world, whether we're talking about the war in Ukraine, whether we're talking about economic uncertainty, interest rates going up, whether we're talking about mass shootings in Buffalo or Texas. Yeah. So much pain has happened in our world. And I haven't lost sight of that. I don't take any day for granted. And the fact that I get to wake up here safe and sound in Southern Ontario with a job that I love, with a healthy family, surrounded by people who I care about and who care about me.
That's huge.
No, I'm not lucky. I'm blessed.
Yeah.
I'm not lucky. I'm blessed. God has been good to me, and I don't know why I have received this favor and other people haven't, but I have, and I'm so grateful for it. I don't take this for granted, sir.
So take that for a moment, and I want you to be a chaplain to our viewers right now. Some of them are feeling like they're not blessed. They're going through maybe deep times. Maybe it's a health issue, a financial issue. What word would you have to say to them today?
My word to that individual today would be simply this. Stop, first of all, take a deep breath, and consider one thing that you are grateful for. For myself, even something as simple as the ability to get out of bed and walk and put one foot in front of the other. Recently, through an introduction, I befriended a young man who is a national level wheelchair basketball athlete who was born with spina bifida. He's never walked a single day in his life. He's in a wheelchair. And I complain that I forgot something in the fridge and I have to get up from the dining room table and walk around to get something from the fridge. And then all of a sudden I have to change my perspective and go, you know what? I'm able to walk over to the fridge. And that's something that my new friend Ben can't do. The simple things, being able to open your eyes for those of us who have clear vision, to look outside, to feel, to hear, to receive, to feel emotion. Do you have a selection of clothes in your closet? Do you have a roof over your head? Do you have a couple of bucks in your pocket? You're already ahead of about 75% of the world.
Exactly.
So yeah, be grateful. Be grateful for the small things you do have, the small blessings.
Herbie, I want to give you a tough question to answer in about 45 seconds.
All right.
I got reamed out on social media that basically I had to be crazy, have my head in the sand to be a follower of Jesus. And I'm okay handling that stuff. Why are you a follower of Jesus?
That's both a simple and a theological question. I am a follower of Jesus because he first loved me,
Oh, I like
and
that.
he pursued me, and he relentlessly desired a relationship with me. And I thought, yeah, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I need that forgiveness. I need something that is the same yesterday, today, and always. That's Christ the rock, rather than the uncertainty and the shifting sands of the world we live in. That's why I am delighted to say that I am a Christ follower.
Herbie Kuhn, privilege as always to have you on the program. Look forward to having you come back. And thank you for taking time to speak into our lives today.
Mike, a great privilege today. May the Lord bless you and have a safe, fantastic day. And all of your viewers, take care and peace.
Thank you.
Cherish every moment, but I'm wrapped in Jesus Christ, staring in the awesome face of a God who saves. Oh, mama, you know I love ya. Dad, you taught me how to be a man.
Think of that song we were just listening to. I think of the interview with Herbie and the different elements of today's program that draw us close to the need that we have to have a relationship with God. But many times we see it in a different light. And what happens is that we begin to desire something even far deeper. And what it is relationships. And we think that people can satisfy, that can meet our relationship, our deep, deep need to be in relationship. But at the end of the day, it is only God who can satisfy. And as we journey on in the book of Mark today, we're going to see something very unique that started off the day with our Savior, the Lord Jesus. Remember back at the beginning of the program, I was asking Julie what was her favorite city. And I mentioned that my city was Boston. Well, maybe for a variety of reasons, but I grew up watching that sitcom Cheers, you know, with Ted Danson and all the different characters that were there at the bar. And it's interesting, you know the theme song and you know the words. It says sometimes you want to go to a place where everybody knows your name. And as we think about relationship, we think about the whole issue of belonging. That's what Herbie was actually talking about, who we belong to. Do we understand what it means to be in relationship with God? Have you ever thought about your relationship with God, where it needs to be, where it could possibly be? I reference a person, you know, trashing me on social media because they figured I had to have my head in the sand to even be a follower of Jesus. But it's when I had my relationship right with Jesus that then my other relationships took place. And that is the beauty of the cross. You know, we think of the vertical part of the cross, that's my relationship between myself and God. And the horizontal part, that's my relationship with one another. How does that come about? Well, today and tomorrow, I want to take us through the final part of Mark chapter 1. And I want you to listen with me because it's a story where Jesus got up very early in the morning when it was dark. And he departed and he went to a desolate place, and there he, guess what? He prayed. That's how he had relationship with his heavenly Father. And then it says Simon and those that were with him began to search for him. Where did he go? Where did he go? And they said, everyone is searching. Everyone is looking for you. There was panic. You know, all the crowds that wanted to see him. Where is he? Where is he? It's time to get up. We got to find this teacher. We got to find the Messiah. And he said, let's go to the next town that I may preach there, for that is why I've come. Well, today I'm going to set up what I'm going to be teaching over the next 2 days, but it's in the whole context of relationship. You see, the whole thing with Cheers, we want to go to a place where everyone knows our name. We want to know, does anybody really care for me? You want to know that as well. Do I matter? Am I of value? And Jesus is going to teach us today that out of his time of prayer with God, he was able to align his priorities, his daily schedule, so that he could stop and take time for an individual that cried out for help. The crowd was going to be all around him. We're going to see this tomorrow, and yet he finds time for one person. How did he learn to listen? How did that really happen in his life? You know, I would think that all of us want to be around caring people, and I would like to think that all of us would like to think that I am a caring person. But I've often pondered this little phrase that in a world that couldn't care less, we could care more. We have that opportunity. It's easy to point the finger at the world and say, hey, they're not caring. They don't, it's all about them. Who's going to care for me? And maybe today you feel very lonely, you feel very isolated, and you're saying, does anybody really know that I exist? Do they know what I'm going through? And I want to remind you today that God knows what you're going through. He cares for you. And my hope, my prayer is that you will experience in a very tangible way the presence of God in your life. I think, though, for me to be a caring person, to actually be prepared to stop and to shift my agenda, I need to learn from my Heavenly Father. Jesus took time to pray very early in the morning. And then the disciples, came with the demands of the day, the pressure. And they said, everyone is looking for you. He said, you know what? He said, as much as everyone's looking for me, I'm going to say no to them. I need to go somewhere else. I need to go to another town. I mean, if I was the preacher and everybody was wanting to be around me, I'd say, hey, let's stay here. Let's conduct some kind of meetings, and because I'm going to be the center of attention. And Jesus said, no, I'm going to move on. And in moving on, he found a leper, someone who was the outcast, and he cared for him. He talked to him and brought healing in his life. We're going to look at that tomorrow. But until tomorrow, can I remind you that God invites you and I to come into relationship with him so that we can be not just caring people, but people who experience the very care, the very love of our Savior Jesus in our own lives.
Herbie is involved with Athletes in Action, as we talked about, and I love the fact that he is also an athlete in action. And then when we talk about life, he shares how it's not what we do, but who we are in God. And because of who we are in God, how we're transformed by Christ's power, that we want to automatically do something. So then it's how we play and live out life that matters the most. And I think that is so important for us to grasp, that it's not that we have to do, but we do because we've seen a transformation in our life because of God. And I think that's something I want to share with others today. Don't forget, it's not just doing, it's because Christ has done for us. And out of that, we have love. And in action, we want to share that love every day to others. Remember, he's there for you.